What was the question? My journey in coaching started because I needed coaching. After about 8 years, just like trying to piece an acting career together with all these, day jobs and everything, I finally took a step back and was like, what am I missing? What is going on? Because this is not working. And I just put my finger on business. It's business. I need business skills. So I took about 6 months and I read every freaking business book that I could get my hands on branding, marketing, sales, networking, everything. And then I went, okay, so how can I take these principles that work in the real world for businesses and how can I take them and apply them to me, a human, a sensitive, living, breathing artist? And that was when I first started creating my branding system for actors, was to do it for myself. I think a lot of people just think, oh, if I brand myself, it's keeping me from opportunities because then I'm focusing on one thing. And for me, the exact opposite is true. It's like branding is completely expansive. It's allowing people to see the three dimensions of who you are.
A lot of actors get so stuck and frustrated, wanting to please or just take any role.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, oh my God, something's coming.
Yeah.
I'll just be the dinosaur in the corner and I'm selling some drugs. And it's like, woohoo!
When I first started to be an actor, I was like, well, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. And then we kind of hold on to that. And then we keep going and we keep going and we keep going, holding on to this thing.
Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you have to do it. Sometimes you can get caught up and people expect you to do this because you're reliable, You have the whole tool set. But if it's not in alignment with something that you want to do, that's just doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow this path.
Like life experiences change who we are. Just our journey in life changes who we are. Just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just do it, just do it, just do it. And we're not really paying attention to what the mind is doing. I have an acting accountability partner. We talk once a month. So last month I said, just keep telling me. I think just text me every once in a while and just tell me I'm a really great actor. So every once in a while, Amy's like, you're a kick-ass actor. You're a fucking badass actor. And I'm like, yeah. Because like, we need that. Like, we need that,
Jodie, thank you so much for being here. It is such an honor. And I want to introduce you as you are an LA-based actor. You are an audiobook narrator, very successful branding and career coach for actors. You are the CEO of Actors Insider. And that's where I met you, is because I saw you online. I saw your YouTube videos, your Facebook videos, and I fell in love with you. Your energy is so gorgeous. And what I want to say is then I decided, it's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do a think tank. And then, okay, we're just going to be having truth bombs here from the beginning on. Then Ava had this, this inner thing where you're self-sabotaging yourself. You get stuck in this limited belief, like you're like limiting beliefs. You don't think you're good enough. There's something in your way. You're not doing the work. So I have this amazing program that Jodie has developed. And I wasn't doing the work and I started panicking and I was like, what is wrong with me? And I was so unhappy. And Jodie, I want to say, and I have to say this here, you were so gorgeous. You took the time to extra talk to me, to give me the space, to hold me in a way where I felt safe, I felt seen, and I felt like you were carrying me. And I so needed it in that moment because I was just questioning myself, through and through. And that is the quality that you have, is that you're just in one big huge heart. and you make sure that everyone feels safe and is taken care of. I want to start with just saying again here in public, thank you so much for that. It was precious. It was a very hard time, and it meant the
you are
world
so
to me.
welcome.
And I would love to go to you and please tell us about how this all came about with Think Tank. I mean, I love the name. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Well, now I'm already going to cry because that was really lovely. So thank you.
Very welcome. That's what we do regularly.
Right? Oh my God. What was the question?
Love you to talk about. We're gonna start. You've so much. You've like your success. What you've all achieved in the film industry, in the independent filmmaking world as a woman. And I would love to start with as we met through your
Yeah.
coaching program. Like, please tell us about that. How that came about.
Yeah.
The the Actor Insider, the think tank, and yeah,
Right.
just tell us about that.
Um, yeah, I mean, I started my journey in coaching started because I needed coaching.
Mm.
I went to NYU, Tisch School of the Arts, got a BFA in acting, like a really great theater program. And when I graduated, it was hard. Like I struggled. And I was just trying to do everything all at once. I didn't know how to run a business or know that I was a business. And I just didn't really know what I was doing. And after about 8 years of doing this and just like trying to piece an acting career together with all these, day jobs and everything, I finally took a step back and was like, what am I missing? What is going on? Because this is not working. And I just put my finger on business. It's business. I need business skills. So I took about 6 months and I read every freaking business book that I could get my hands on branding, marketing, sales, networking, everything. And then I went, okay, so how can I take these principles that work in the real world for businesses and how can I take them and apply them to me, a human, a sensitive, living, breathing artist? And that was when I first started creating my branding system for actors, was to do it for myself.
Mm.
And after doing that, probably about 6 months later, I got my first agent in New York finally. I got my first off Broadway show. I got to join Actors Equity Union. Like all these things started happening. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. And then at that same time, all my friends were like, what are you doing? Like, what happened? What's going on? And so they're like, can I take you out to coffee and pick your brain? I was like, sure. And then like literally after about like 42 free coffee dates, I thought, I think I have a skill set here that people need. And but that was the beginning of my coaching business. So my first business I started in 2008 in New York. At that point it was called The Savvy Actor.
Hmm.
I had a business partner at the time. And started doing one-on-one coachings and classes. And that year we wrote a book. The book went global. I started traveling to universities and speaking, and it kind of took off on a life of its own. And then I had an acting teacher that I knew that said, LA needs you. If you come out here and do a free class, I will fill the room. So I did. And that was 20. I want to say 2011, maybe 2010, 2011. So a couple years after the business. And I came out to LA and I taught a free class and I had like 10 people sign up for a weekend workshop with me. I was like, well, I guess I'm coming back to LA. And then I kept traveling to LA. And then it just grew from there, I did have a falling out with my very first business partner, unfortunately. But that gave me space and growth to do what I have now, which is Actor Insider, which is the current incarnation of my business. So that's it in a nutshell of what
Gorgeous.
happened.
That is amazing. I would also love, like, can you tell us like a little bit more, because think tank
Yeah.
there's so much. Like when I started
There's so
working with it and
much.
looking at it, I was like, wow. I have a feeling like it's a roadmap to success. Like
Yeah.
everything, you're very structured. There's like
Yeah.
it's amazing, yeah. And there's like a step for every kind of like, if you're listening or watching, I hope you're watching. Jodie's so gorgeous and yummy. if if you have a question or something, I'm sure Jodie has it in her program. It's gonna be there. Like I don't think there's anything that isn't answered in your program. So please tell us
Probably.
more about it.
Yeah, so when I first started teaching, I had like a 6 week class that I taught, and then that went into like a weekend intensive, and then I got hired at universities to teach their business of acting program. So I've worked at 5 different universities now, and I've built out their curriculum, and so I built actually a year-long program in a couple of these universities. So that's when I really started going, okay, this is everything. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just going to teach you branding or marketing. Like, this is everything you would need. And then I ended up leaving academia in 2019. I just got a little too burnt out for me, even though I'm back in it now, teaching at the University of Austin. But I left in 2019 and I said, you know what? I want to take all of the stuff, this year long program I've created, and create a membership. And that's what I did in 2019 was create the Actors Think Tank. So it's everything I've ever like taught, any lesson, any worksheet, any example, any template. And I created the Actors Think Tank in 2019. And very grateful that I did that because, then the pandemic happened in 2020. So I'm really
That's right.
glad I wasn't in academia in 2020 and really glad that then I had a digital product for actors because we were all at home. So it really was, I guess I had some foresight there. But that's really how it started was I built a year-long program and then I built the Actors Think Tank from that
That is
with
also
everything.
so smart because you actually tested your program before you released it. You had real people,
Correct.
you saw the feedback, you saw if it's working, and maybe like
Yeah.
did some changes or.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And did
Yeah, it
you
was
have like
great. It was
former
so much data.
students who came with you and said, you changed my life? Because I'm sure, like I've heard this
Oh,
story the
yeah.
first time now from her experience. I knew that she was part of your program and she was blown away with the resources that you provided. But now I see that it went
Mm.
even deeper for you too. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. I get students all the time reaching out. It's just so lovely. And even now I got recommended to teach at the University of Austin. They have a satellite program in Los Angeles. So their whole senior class comes out to LA for their last semester. So I'm teaching their business of acting here. And I got referred by a casting director to teach in the program and they hired me. But the students we're just finishing up their branding. We're working on their log lines. They just got their headshots and now they're like, okay, we get it. We drink the Kool-Aid. We trust you. We trust you. So it's good. It's good. I'm like, you see, there's a method to my madness. They're like, yes, yes. So yeah, it feels really great, especially to help, young actors coming into the industry. Like I wish I had that when I was 21.
Yeah.
So it's really great to yeah, just see, when you're asking a 21-year-old to define themselves, because that's essentially what I'm doing for an actor is define who you are in this industry, who you want to be, the legacy you want to leave, the stories you want to tell. And those are huge questions. And
Yeah.
when you're 21 confronted with that, it's like, wait, what? No, I just want to act.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, but let's think bigger, right? We want to think bigger in this career so we don't get bitter, jaded, and burnt out in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you let us on a little secret? How do you unpack that? How do you unpack what the
Ooh.
person is, meant to do? Or do you even believe that there is something that they meant to do? Or if it's more like a self-exploration and they have to just choose one thing or not one thing? What's your
Yeah,
approach to
that's a great
this?
question. It's not about necessarily choosing one thing or another. Like I think a lot of times when we hear the word branding or talk about branding, especially for artists, we think, oh, I get to choose if I'm going to do comedy or drama, or I get to choose that I'm going to play this type of role versus this type of role. But for me, branding is more, I don't know, more visceral, more holistic, more like all three of us are very different women. We've all had very different experiences in our lives, right? We all have different value systems, right? And I'm sure there's some similarities in there, but I can play the roles and tell the stories well that I know how to do better than anybody else because of my life experience, because of who I am. And I think for me, I first wanted to be an actor so I could just be other people and not be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize the more you do it, you're like, oh no, it's really just a deeper exploration of yourself through these other characters, right? And
So
understanding
true.
humanity on a deeper level. So I really, for me, when I work with any actor, it's really about just unmining, like, what are you drawn to? What are the themes of the stories that you really want to tell? I have a whole exercise on branding themes. And and I think for me, that's the glue. That's the glue that can hold a brand together is really identifying why you're drawn to certain characters, understanding the psychology of those characters. Because really, when you start to break it down, then you realize, oh, that's what I'm doing in my own life. This is the journey I'm on in my own life. This is what I want to understand in my own life. There was a point where I was getting cast as a lot of narcissistic women and I don't like narcissistic women. Like I'm not a narcissist. And I was like, why am I getting cast as this? But there was something about it that I just freaking loved. But then I took a step back one day and I was like, I was curious, why am I drawn to this? Why am I doing this? And it was right in front of my face the whole time and I didn't see it, where my mom was a narcissist. And so playing these roles was me trying to understand her and understand her psychology. Because every time I was playing a narcissist, I'm like, no, there's something that's driving them. There's pain. There's something there. That's why they are the way they are. And I would always try to like figure that out. And it's because I was trying to figure out my mom all these years, you know? But that's a story I know how to tell. And I think that's what we get to do as artists is really go, okay, but what do I know? What's my experience? What am I going to bring to this? What am I bringing to this industry? What's my point of view? And that's really where we get to start, where I think so many people start in the industry going, how can I fit a mold? How can I give them what they want? Right. And that's just not the way to do it.
So empowering, especially I feel like if you're 21, you're starting out, you don't know the world, you don't know yourself, and have someone who can guide you through this process is wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for
those,
this.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. And also
Thank
those
you.
who are older, it's just like, because a lot of actors get so stuck and frustrated if they haven't, no matter how old, like they've been in their industry, some of them like for 20 years, I would say they should go to you, because you sometimes get so stuck in this wanting to please, or just take any role.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, oh my God, something's coming.
Yeah.
I'll just be the, I don't know, whatever, the dinosaur in the corner, and I'm selling some drugs. And it's like, woohoo! Yay! Was that the dream job? No. But hey, so I think that is also something that is beautiful, you know, and it's important.
Well, yeah, and I think and I can speak for myself. I think when I first started to be an actor, I was like, well, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. And then we kind of hold on to that. And then we keep going and we keep going and we keep going, holding on to this thing. But you're like, we change. Like life experiences change who we are. Just our journey in life changes who we are. And I think a lot of times when I talk to actors who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, I have clients in their 70s. They're still trying to live the dream that they decided at 21, but that's changed, that's shifted, and it's okay that that's shifted, right? So it's almost giving them permission to be who they are now and going, well, I don't love that anymore about the industry. I love this about the industry. Great, let's focus there, right? But it's kind of like, no, I said this thing. So people get really stuck in that, you know?
Yes. Oh, it's beautiful.
But you yourself actually undergone, I'd say, a huge transition, because we know that you started or wanted to start as a med student, pre-med student in Brown.
Yes.
That's a kind of long way to acting, not a very direct one. Please tell us how it came about.
Yeah. So yeah, I was always really smart in school. So like my graduating class of my high school was like over 900 kids in my graduating class. Like that's how big my high school was. And I was I was ranked 3 out of a class of like 900.
Wow.
So you know, my 4.9 whatever GPA. So you know, everyone was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" And it just seemed like med school was the obvious choice, even though I starred in all the school plays. I did all, you know, I was always, everyone knew me as that. But there was still something that I really loved about cardiology. Like I wanted to be a cardiologist. Like that's really what I loved. So I applied to medical school and I applied to acting schools, and I was headed to I got a call for my second interview for Brown University for their pre-med program. And that's when NYU called and accepted me early into their acting program. And I was like, yeah, I'll just play a doctor on TV. That'll be fine. I don't need to go. I don't need to go to med school. But I think about like, I can't imagine my life if I had gone to med school. Yeah. I mean, look, the acting path is not an easy one. Like it's not, you know, there's not a lot of structure to it, which is why with my programs, I try to give actors structure because it just feels so chaotic. But I can't imagine having gone to med school and residency and all that stuff, but I did really like it. I was smart enough to do it. I just I was like, nah, let me go to New York and be an actor.
Well, talking about the acting, I mean, you're a very talented actress. It's
Thank you.
I have to say. And you talk about when you're coaching the actors and when you're talking about finding your brand, it's like the stories. Then you said the narcissistic, you know, the women, and you were like, why am I like, that's not me? And then you realize like, okay, that is your mother. Um, when you are taking on roles, like how do you
Mm.
choose? How do you, what do you say yes to and why?
That's a great question. Yeah, I I love telling stories, obviously, of female empowerment, of perseverance, of, people who are struggling and get to the other side. I love telling stories of very like myopic and obsessed women who are either fighting for justice or truth or revenge or themselves or something. So like I know the themes that I'm really drawn to. So when I'm looking at a script, especially if it's an indie film that comes across my way, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
TV, I'm going to audition for all the TV stuff. Like TV is really where I want to live. So, I'm still building my resume in the television world there. But when I get auditions for indie films and I'm reading the script, if it's not in alignment with really what I want to tell, then I pass on it. And my team's cool with that. Like I got an audition last year and it was a horror movie. I don't like horror. I'm not going to be in a horror movie. I don't want to be in a horror movie. I'm a big baby. I
I'm
don't
scared.
want to do it. I know. I don't want to do it. I don't like watching them. I don't want to be in them. And it was a horror movie. And then it was about like people and it got like in the desert and they were cannibals. And I was like,
Ooh.
no, I don't want to. No, that's not me. I don't want to do that. Like, I just really start thinking about what do I want to put out in the world? What's the messaging that I want to put out in the world, And when I was in my 20s, I didn't think about that. I was like, just pay me, I'll do anything. But I think there's a point where you get to take ownership of really who you are and what you want to tell, and it's not going to be every audition that comes across, and for me that's okay. I'm happy to say no to that and do things that are in alignment with my own value system and what I want to put out in the world.
Can you tell us about the film that was 2024, and that was Cat, if I'm right? I think that's
Oh
the,
yeah.
yeah. And you even won. I have it here. Note it down. You won Best Comedy.
Hmm.
It was the Short Film Festival, and even
Yeah.
the Audience Award. Like,
Yeah.
and I know there you're playing the lead,
Yep.
and you're producing it. Am I
I got an
right?
yes. Well, I didn't fully produce it. I was an associate producer on it because I helped them
Okay.
find locations and I did some stuff. But that script actually, Jessica Reddish was actually a client of mine. She was in one of my programs, Dare to Be Unstoppable, and I met her in 2018. And she's a director. And after taking that program, her career took off. She was able to negotiate things at a higher rate, started working more, doing all the projects she wanted to. And then in 2020, early 2020, she reached out to me and she's like, I wrote a script for you.
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
okay. And I read the script and then we were like, yeah, let's shoot this thing. And then COVID happened. So then that got pushed for a couple years. So we actually shot it in July of 2022 and then just released it this year. So 2024 rather. But yeah, it's an absurd comedy. It's really great. Jessica is a brilliant, brilliant writer director. If you are listening, go follow Jessica Reddish. She is just amazing.
We need to get her on this
Yeah,
podcast.
yes,
Yes.
get her on the podcast.
Just saying.
Yeah, and we have another film festival we just got into coming up in April. But she's won so many awards and she's just known for her comedy. And yeah, this is just an absurdist comedy of an overworking woman who really wants love and finds it, but then ends up marrying a cat because it's just easier.
Happens. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it's a very fun film.
And comedy. Have you done comedy before? Was it your first time? Do you like the genre?
Oh, I do. My whole career started off in comedy. So when I was in New York, I was more of a musical theater person than I sang, and that's how my whole career started. So musical theater comedy was really my focus for the longest time, and I did a ton of comedy theater. But then as I switched and went more into film and television and moved to Los Angeles, just my look is very, I can play a lot of lawyers and doctors and, things like that, women of authority and power, and that kind of lend itself a lot to drama. But I do really love comedy. It's fun. It's really
So it
fun.
was a special trait.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Beautiful. But
Oh,
you
we're gonna
talk
put
about.
all the information. Oh, sorry, we're gonna
Yeah,
put
no,
all
no,
the
say,
information
you say.
about the film on the description box, so
Oh, great.
everyone can
Great.
Yes.
watch.
One question I have, you said before you had written a book. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, that was in my first business. Yeah, we had it was called the Savvy Actor Career Manual. So that's it's really not in print anymore.
Ah, okay, okay.
It's on my to-do list to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But it's
Of
like
course
there's
it
just
is.
so many things. There's so many things.
No, no, no,
Like
no.
my
Let's go there. Let's
schedule's
go there.
packed.
Let's see. Do we want to manifest this together here? So
We're ready.
we're ready. Tell us more. What are you talking? What is this? What are
Oh my
we?
God. Well, there's so many things. Oh my gosh, you too. There's not enough time. If we can figure out how, let's manifest cloning my brain so that I can do more things. That would be amazing. No, I really want to write a branding book for actors. I really want to take all my branding stuff
Mm,
and really write a book. So that's just been rolling over on the to-do list for probably about a year now, just because there hasn't been time and space with everything else that's going on.
mm.
But I do want to get a book out in the marketplace because I think it's really important to debunk a lot of myths
Mm.
Yes.
that are around branding and really just expand the artist's mind to go, oh no, that is what I get to do. That is expansive. That is going to help me move forward. So yeah, so I do want to get that book out in the world. Oh, there's so many things.
Well,
But yeah, that is one thing.
well, may I then ask you? We're all gonna be waiting for that book, that's for sure.
Okay.
We need
Amen.
it. But debunking, you talk about myths. Like, what are some that you
Yeah.
could you tell us some of them? Like, what
Oh
is it?
yeah, that it's limiting. I think a lot of people just think, oh, if I brand myself, it's keeping me from opportunities because then I'm
Mm-hmm.
focusing on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the exact opposite is true. It's like branding is completely expansive. If you, it's allowing people to see the three dimensions of who you are. Where I think again, a lot of people are like, oh, branding is I focus on comedy and I'm
Mm-hmm.
bubbly and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
When for me, it's about the three dimensions of who you are, and it's like I always use this analogy, like if you two want to go out to lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and Valerie is like, "Hey, what do you want to eat?" And Ava, you're like, "I don't know." And then you guys are going back and forth. I don't know. What do you feel like? I don't know. I don't know. But then if one of you says, "I want Italian," you go, "Oh, I know this place on the corner. It's fabulous." Right? That one little piece of specificity opens up the brain. To think in a bigger capacity to allow our imaginations to go.
Mm.
And it's the same thing with branding. If you can give someone a direction, they go, "Oh, I see. I see exactly who you are and what you do." You know? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want to do. Like I was even at this I got invited to this ladies brunch. Was it last month? And it was other like acting coaches in town in LA and some managers and casting directors who were there. And I started talking with this casting director. I was like the only actor coach in the room. So everyone was like, "Who? What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm an actor." I started leading with actor, and she was like, "Oh, you're an actor." She's like, "Well, what do you do?" And I went, "Oh," I said, "Well, I tell stories of women who are really like myopic, obsessed to the extreme." And the kind of what I said to you guys. I said, they fight for
Good.
themselves, revenge, justice, or truth. And she stopped and looked at me and she was like, "I see that. That is really cool." She's like, you're like Carrie Russell in The Diplomat. You're like this, you're like that." I was like, "Yeah,
That's
exactly."
me.
And then we had a whole conversation. So my branding, which is one statement I use to describe my branding, started this entire conversation because it opened up her imagination to see me as opposed to I'm just an actor, I like drama. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, we are so gonna
So
steal this. I'm so gonna steal this. And oh my God, if you're listening and watching
steal
this,
away.
this
Steal
is
away.
this is the perfect. You know when they talk about like the 10-minute elevator pitch thing, and everyone is like,
Yes.
"I'm
Yes.
I'm from there, and I'm this, and I'm that," but
Mm.
that is the right way to do it. That's the right way
Mm-hmm.
to do it because when you say it that like that, even my brain went like.
Mhm.
That is so empowering and sexy. That is just like, well, I tell stories of women. It's not like, well, I was in this one commercial like three
Right.
months.
Mhm.
Oh no,
Right.
it's a year now. Well, last year, like it isn't that. It's like this is what I'm
Right.
telling. These are the stories that I'm putting out. This is where wow,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
is amazing.
And that's why I say for me, that's branding themes, right? The theme work for me is so important. yeah, and it's about letting people in on your career journey, right? And honoring where you're at, and not like you were just doing, like apologizing. Well, I did this, oh, but it was so while ago, and
Mm-hmm.
well, I've just been in class, or the industry's slow. Yeah, we all know the industry's slow, but that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You know what I mean? What are you still doing, and who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm
It's
just
all
writing this
rooted in
down.
the mindset as well. You said this, your approach is very
Yeah.
holistic, because to be able to do this presentation and to own it, you have to believe it yourself. You won't be able to do that if it's someone who branded you. It only can come from within you, from your rooted beliefs, right?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly, exactly. And that's why I think most people approach brand, which is that myth is like it is from the outside in. It's not from the outside in, it's from the inside out. Exactly what you just said. So I think so many people go, "Oh, you should be a detective, you're powerful, you're this, you're that." And then they try to put this armor on you to be that thing.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, I think it's our job as artists to like peel away the onion
Mm-hmm.
layers to go, "No, but this is who I am, and and this is how can I tell this story?" You know, because we think of, oh, if you're a detective, you should be a detective. Okay, sure, yeah, we have an idea of what detective is, but then you look at Mayor of Easttown, that's a different type of detective. There's so many different types of detectives. You go to Brooklyn 911, that's different detectives. Like, so it's like, well, how are you telling that story of detective as opposed to trying to be the essence of this thing that someone tells you should be? Because that never works. It becomes one dimensional. Right. So yeah, it's for me, it's always the inside out. Because obviously we have to take into consideration external perception, how you're perceived, right? I mean, our bone structure says a lot about who we are, what people assume about who we are, even like with the placement of our eyes, the color of our eyes, all of that stuff. That's a whole psychology of the face, right? That we have to take into consideration. But for me, that's the last part to take into consideration, because you got to figure out who you are first and who you want to be in this industry, or else you're just trying to like live for someone else. Do you know what I mean? Or live for the
Mm-hmm.
industry as opposed to living
Mm-hmm.
for yourself. And why do we think so many actors leave the business? Because of that, because they get so bitter because they're trying to be
Yeah.
something that they're not,
Yeah.
you know? That's
Yeah.
hard.
That is
That's
Yeah.
hard.
hard.
I'm sorry, can I just ask you this?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're
What?
talking about the psychology of it, and I was just like, my mind just went like, ooh, this is interesting. You said the color of your eyes, the bone structure. Can you tell us
Yes.
a little bit more? I'm like, that is
Oh, I mean, sure. I mean,
fascinating.
there's so many resources out there, and I do share some of those resources in the think tank as well. But that's why I get a lot of power women, is because I have a strong jaw, strong bone structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simply because of the structure of my face,
Mm-hmm.
it's harder for me to play the victim. Right. It's just because my features are harsh and strong. My eyebrows are harsh and strong, so there's a sense of power that my face elicits. That's why people think I get cast a lot more as wealthier women, even though I grew up lower middle class, just because the bone structure says, oh, there's this power there. There's an authority there. So I know that. So I lean into it. But I
Mm-hmm.
also know when I'm going out for middle class women struggling with wearing, maybe I wear no makeup, I'll have my hair back, I know how to soften my features, and then I know how to pump up my features when I'm going out for someone who is a different level, or upper class or whatever. But we have to understand how we're perceived and what our face says, so then you can know what to do with that on certain auditions, or know what colors soften me, right? Maybe I won't pencil in my eyebrows as much that day. Do you know what I mean? Or something, right? Like even little things like that, just to soften it, because I can play those softer roles, I can play those inspiring, connected, relatable women, because that's also who I am. But then I just need to soften things sometimes to allow the world to see that.
That's amazing. That's almost like a toolkit. You can do whatever as long
Yes.
as you know what people
Yes.
assume about you. Like you can play
Exactly.
around and
Exactly.
change and shift.
Valeria, don't you want
Hmm.
to ask her something?
We
I'm
we
like,
we
I
need
want to
we need
ask
to
you what.
explore that.
Me too. I'm like, should I ask? I'm gonna ask. Like, what do you see in my like? Like, can you look at the two of
um,
us and tell us?
you know what? Well, let me ask you. I will. Let me ask you this: what do you usually get cast as? Because I want to see if I'm right in my head, or what do you? Yeah. What if
Okay,
you? How would you
there
do
are
it?
two things. There's a little bit the a little bit the victim, like us, and the woman that is gone through horrendous things and is suffering. And then also the total opposite of it, that I'm the vamp. I am the one that's like I will draw in men like a spider's web, and I will use them. And so I have,
Yes. Yeah. It's because your eyes, the shape of your eyes has a very sultry quality to them. So I can see that. Like I have very big eyes. But yours, like you have big eyes, but there's just something that's like a little like smoky about them, like a little sultry about them. And I can see why. But that's also like for the sultry, there's also power there, right? This command there, and you have very high cheekbones, right? So the high cheekbones in your eyes, that's what adds that like sultry vampy quality. But also you have kind of like a heart shaped face or a triangle shaped face, which I think which adds a little of that softness to victim. And like because it's either like the high cheekbone is sultry or the face feels rounder, so it's softer and can be a little victim-y, quote unquote. So that makes sense to me that you get that's where you get put.
And now you know why you have to work with Jodie. Why she's an award-winning coach on top of it. So just want to say that. Yeah, wow, fascinating.
But it's also so helpful. Imagine if someone is being, typecast all the time and they have all those ideas in their head, and you can do it on the spot. You just, tell them about certain qualities which are completely objective, and people just have those assumptions because that's how society works. It's better to know that instead of just feeling, something is wrong, like those roles, why am I being,
Exactly. Like my hair is actually naturally curly. So like if you Google photos of me, like when I was in New York, my hair is very curly. And when I was doing musical theater, it was red and curly. So that obviously was a different perception from people, right? Like curly hair is very like free spirit, bohemian, a little neurotic, right? A little that. So when I started switching into film and television, there was a little bit of a disconnect. And then I remember I got cast in a film, which was actually one of the first films that I ended up producing as well. And the director asked if I'd straighten my hair. And I was like, I hadn't thought about that. And so a friend of mine straightened it, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, let me leave this for a while. And then I remember walking into my commercial agent's office in New York. I was with Abrams Artists at the time. And I walked into the office and my commercial agent looked at me. She went, there you are. And I was like, oh, because I was, as I aged and grew, and as I was moving into doing these new types of roles, my curls were actually fighting that for the industry to see it. So that was just a change in packaging, right? So again, if we understand who we are, how we're perceived, all of that, then we can start to package things in a way where it allows people to go, oh, I get it. I get who you are. So then I've been straightening. Like if you pour a bucket of water on my head right now, it'll go curly. Like it's not chemically straightened or anything.
We're not doing this, but we're definitely Googling your photos from that time.
It was really curly. So whenever I'm on vacation, it's always curly because I'm like, oh, I don't have time to blow this out. But I wear it like this now. And then I was a redhead with straight hair for a while, but then my auditions decreased. And so I went, okay, what's happening? And then I started looking on film and television at that point. And that was when Emma Stone, Jessica Chastain, all these people, all these redheaded women were the leads in everything. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get cast as a redhead, as a co-star or guest star in this TV show if the lead is also a redhead. They're not going to cast two redheads. So then I switched to brunette. Then all my auditions came back again, right? So it's just sometimes we have to pay attention to who do you want to be, then what are the trends in the industry, and what can you do to make that packaging very clear for people. And that's what I say. I'm not talking about like plastic surgery or any of that stuff, right? I don't do Botox. I don't do any of that. I mean, these are all things within my control. Do you know what I mean? But we just need to pay attention to what's happening in the industry and going, well, how can I allow people to see me in that way,
And yes, if you're wondering, you can also book a private with Jodie. At least the last venue, which is definitely worth the money. Yes. Wow, this is mind blowing.
I'm speechless. It's like my mind is open always. Oh.
That's so funny. Well, that even comes down to hair length. I'll just say this, like I have a commercial agent. Every time I get a commercial audition, which is rare because it has to be specific because I'm not the Walmart mom, I'm not outdoorsy, I'm not that kind of thing, right? Um but when I do get the audition, I usually get called back or pinned for it. Because it's right. But I keep my hair longer because I am that power woman authority, this or that, which if you look at the women on TV and film, they have longer hair, right? But a lot of the moms in commercials, they're all short hair, right?
Yeah.
So I could be more Walmart mom if my hair was like that, but I'm focusing on my theatrical career. So these are all decisions we get to think about and make. And I'm not going to complain that I'm not getting all the commercial auditions because I know my look doesn't match for a lot of what they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Smart. He's just there. It is smart. And I mean, should we talk about your producing career? Because it's another mind-blowing thing, right? Please.
Sure. Let's do it. Gosh, where do I start? Um, yeah, so let's see. In 2013, I just mentioned I got cast in this film. This was in 2013, and the director asked me to straighten my hair. And it was so another client of mine who became a friend, he said, I have the script. I wrote the script. He's like, I want you to produce it with
Mm.
me. And I was like, what? Produce it? What? Like, I hadn't even thought about that. Wasn't even like really in my consciousness. Um, and then I read the script and I was like, okay. And at that time in New York, I was falling out of love with musical theater. I knew New York wasn't where I was meant to be anymore. I was spending a lot of time traveling to LA, and I was like, oh, I really want to be in LA and do more film and television. So all of that was kind of percolating at that time. And he's like, think about it. So I thought about it, and then we had a conversation, and he was like, okay, will you produce this with me? I said yes, if I can play your wife in the film. He was like, done. And so that was how it all started. And that was one of the first. It was a short film, but it was about, God, I feel like our budget was about 58,000 on that. It was a very expensive short film. It was a sci-fi short, so we had a lot of VFX on it. We had Marisol Nichols was the lead in it, so we got some names attached to the short film. So that was the first film, and was I living here yet? No, I flew out here to shoot that. So I was in New York still at the time, and that was the first film. And I had no idea what I was doing, you guys. I remember having to go to set that next morning, and I was laying in bed at night, and I know that I'm organized, I'm good at problem solving, I'm all those things, which is what a good producer really is. Do you know what I mean? But there's also like some knowledge that I did not have, and so all the imposter syndrome started to kick in. I think as women that happens to us a lot, where like a man will go, I'll just show up to set and do whatever. Do you know what I mean?
True.
But for me, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I think it was like 1 a.m. and I downloaded like the guide to independent filmmaking, and I'm like starting to like read it at like 1 a.m. like, what am I gonna do? Even though like we already been in pre-pro and all this stuff, but I just had like a panic moment. But that was the first one, and I really liked it, and I realized I was really good at it, even though I didn't know all the information, and I learned a lot as I went. There was just something really fulfilling, um, just about being that problem solver and bringing this piece to life. And not even in the creative way, but just in, I'm going to put the puzzle together and I'm going to make this happen. And that was really fun for me. I like putting the puzzle pieces together. So I really enjoyed that experience. And so then out of that, my client who had come to me and said, produce this, then we decided to produce another short together. But he never does anything small. And so we ended up doing another short, and that short cost us, I want to say, about $140,000.
What? Can we just
Yeah.
stop here shortly?
Short.
Just for a short moment. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Your first producing was what, 58,000?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're
Yeah.
over 100, and this is for shorts? Like a short?
For shorts. It was a proof of concept for a feature. It was a comic book
Okay.
piece. So we needed a ton of VFX. We had Tyler Mane in that film, who was like the original Wolverine in X-Men, and he was like Mike, in Halloween. He was in all those movies. We had Oded Fair, who's a big actor. So yeah, we had some big people in that. and yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Were you in it too? Did you have a role in it?
Well, see, this is where the journey starts to get awry. Right? Because I was like, okay, I'm starting producing. I'm like, okay, I'm good at producing. Yes, and I get to be in things. Cool. And then my producing partner said, let's do this. I was like, okay. And I was like reading the script and I was like,
Where's
oh,
my role?
there's nothing.
Where's my role?
Yeah. And then he was like, yeah, but we're gonna make it into a feature and it'll be big and this and that. And I'm like, okay, I gotta learn producing, this and that. And I had like a tiny thing that like never made it to the cut. You know what I mean? Like it was whatever. But I learned a lot. But that was like a lot of time because it was a big budget and so many pieces to balance. But then that happened, and then that we started pitching around, and then cut to like a year later, he's like, "Hey, let's produce a feature." I was like, "Cool." And he wrote a script, and then I read the script, and it was horror. What did I just tell you? I hate horror. And I read it, and I was like,
You lost
and there was
Jodie
like again a
there.
teeny tiny role for me, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll be the news reporter at the end reporting on the murder, you know what I mean? And then I produced this feature, and at the end of that I was like, can I swear on this podcast
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yes.
Basically, because I was like, hold on. I decided to produce because it could open up my acting career in a different way and give me control over the stories that I want to tell as an artist and a human and as an actor. And then it just got like, oh, but let's do this project. Oh, and now we can do this project. And now we can do this. And I was like, okay. And I just went on the journey. And after that, and we had even started a production company in there together, like all of this stuff happened. And then after doing that feature, I just had to take a step back and go, hold on, this is a lot of fucking work.
Mm.
I need to get back to who I want to be in this industry and what I want to produce. And I don't want to always produce genre films or comic book films or sci-fi or horror. I never wanted to produce horror, but everybody says, oh, your first feature film, do a horror because it's easier to sell overseas. And granted, we got distribution. We had it got released. Where did it get released? On Amazon. I think it got released on Amazon. We had a foreign sales rep. It got sold in a couple markets. So I mean, we did stuff. Cinedigm at the time had come. Random Media and Cinedigm came on board at the time to get it out. So like we had done stuff with it, and I learned so much. But just at the end of that experience, it was like, but what's the career that I want? And that's not it. That wasn't it. It's not those stories. So that at that point, I took a step back from producing for a bit, just because I got burnt out by it, and I think that was the moment where, and then once people knew I was producing, people would call me up and go, hey, I have this project. Do you want to produce it with me? And I was like, no, I don't. And I was like, is there a role for me? They're like, no, it's my starring vehicle. I was like, okay, well, I can't just keep producing other people's things. And that's, realizing I have a skill set and I'm good at it, but it doesn't mean I have to do it. Like I have to get back to what my truth was. And that took a while to get back to that. Um, and then I actually went through a divorce. We're just we're laying it all on the table here.
We're
Let's just
laying
lay
it
it all
all
on
on
the
the
table.
table today.
Everything's on the table. Yeah, I was going through a divorce, and it was very amicable. It was very amicable with my ex and I. We just realized it just wasn't the right thing. He was a good person, I was a good person. It just wasn't meant to be. And so I was going into the bank because we never even got lawyers or anything. We just split our assets and that was it. And I was going into the bank to deposit a check, and the bank teller looks at my check and she's like, "Oh, is this like a tax credit from a film you just did?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, and I'm like in tears, you know what I mean? Like cashing a check from a divorce with my sunglasses on. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I'm like, why is this bank teller talking to me? And then she kept like asking me these questions. And I was like, who is this person? And then she's like, oh, I'm a director. I'm actually producing a film now. And I was like, okay. And then I like loosened up a little bit and we started talking and we exchanged phone numbers and we went out for coffee like the next week. And she had this
Wow.
beautiful script that she was directing and producing. And it was exactly in alignment with the stories that I want to tell. And then I came on board the producing team of that. And then that that was called Human Terrain. We ended up doing a short film on it, but then once COVID happened, financing never got there, and so the film didn't happen, which happens. But that was when I jumped back in, was like, no, these are the stories that mean something, that are female driven, that are about connection and relationships and how we're connected as humanity and in sense of belonging. And it was just such a beautiful script by Jennifer Blackmer. And anyway, so, but that came from like going to the bank and talking to this random bank teller who ended up being a director. And now she's a dear friend of mine still. But that was how I got back into producing, was that. But it took me, I would say, just like 2 or 3 years just to have a reset of, okay, but what do I want to do here? Because I think sometimes we can just get caught up and go, oh, I'll just keep going. And then, 10 years can go by and you're like, where the hell am I? This isn't where I wanted to be.
Exactly.
And I could just see that happening. So I was really glad that I put a pause on everything, even though there was momentum. I just needed to do it for my own sanity.
Can we just for a
yeah,
second circle back to something that you said, because I think it's quintessential.
Yeah.
You said that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you have to do it. And this is, I think, an eye-opening, should be for many people and for people who are listening. It's because sometimes you can get caught up and people expect you to do this because you're reliable, you have the whole tool set. But if it's not in alignment with something that you want to do, that's your, passion or your heart in, that's just doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow this path, and you can change.
Yeah. It's hard. It's
No
hard.
question about that.
Especially when you like multiple things and are good at multiple things. I mean, when I say that, I'm still holding up a mirror to myself because I don't always listen to that. Do you know
Yes.
what I mean? Because like I love doing, like I love my coaching business. I have my acting career. I have my audiobook career. That's my booth, right? I do audiobooks in there. I just wrote my a feature film that I'm going to be producing. I have software I've developed for actors. I'm teaching back at the
Oh my
university again.
God.
I mean, there's so many. I'm having a little bit of a meltdown right now in my life because I'm like, okay, I've spread myself a little too thin now. Like I have to rein it in a little bit. But it's hard when you enjoy all the stuff you do. And like, the university job is a lot right now, but I get so much fulfillment with these kids. But then I also need to remember that, well, I also get a lot of fulfillment when I'm on set. And if I spend a little more time focused on that, that's really where I want to be. So it's always an assessment, right? Of like, where are you spending your time, money, and energy, and what's really going to move the needle to get you where you really want to go. And it's hard when there's so many plates spinning, or people go, hey, come do this opportunity, or come join this film with me, or this. And we're just like, yes, yes, yes. So yeah, we always get to be very conscious of that. I get to be very conscious of that, I guess I'll say.
Well, I would love to dive into, because, I mean, we're talking about first short film is like over 50,000. That is like in Europe unheard of. We're like, we made it for zero. Like it's like
Right,
minus,
I know.
it's
I know.
like nothing.
I kind of dove in really big.
That is amazing. And we would love, there are a lot of women watching this, and we want them, beautiful creatives, that our message is like, start before you're ready. Like you don't have to
Yes.
have all your ducks lined up, because that's something that we women tend to do, is like, if we're not 110%, we're like,
Yeah,
nope,
for sure.
we can't start. And the guys are like, oh, I have 30%. I'm just going to do it. They're just gone. And you're
I
like,
know.
why?
I know.
And so we would love to learn from you. Like, how did you do this with the funding, the pitching, and navigating the film business of the production side? Like,
Yeah.
how?
Well, the first short was crowdfunding. So that was all crowdfunding.
All crowdfunding.
So
Okay.
Wow.
all crowdfunding. Yeah. So, I learned a lot about crowdfunding, actually from that. Talk about getting sidetracked. Here's another story. So after that first short film, and then we did crowdfunding for the second one too, right? But then we got an investor that came in for the rest. So we had two really successful crowdfunding campaigns, over 50,000 each. So then people were like, how are you doing that? What's going on with that? And then I always want to help everyone and solve everyone's problems. So then I created a crowdfunding course. So there was like a couple of years in there that I was like teaching crowdfunding. And then I had a moment too where I was looking around. I'm going, wait, who am I?
Why?
What am I doing here? Like, what's happening? Oh my God. But through teaching them crowdfunding though, I met this really great producer I'm still friends with. I'm really good friends with a writer who last year was like, hey, I have a script I want to write for you. I was like, great. So like, it built relationships for me, which was wonderful. But it was just another moment of like, God damn it, Jodie, just like stay the course. Stop getting sidetracked with other skill sets. Stop building other businesses. Just stay the course. I've gotten sidetracked from your question, but okay, no, it was crowdfunding on the first two campaigns, and then just networking. Got connected to an investor, and he came in for the second short, and he came in for the feature. So it was really getting the pitch decks together and some of the investor materials together, finding a good legal team that could draw up those contracts. But it was definitely uncomfortable for sure. I mean, crowdfunding was uncomfortable,
Yeah, I would
you
like to
know?
ask you there because I've done all these courses and listened to things and looking at it. And there was one they were like, well, for crowdfunding, you need for every €1,000, you need one human being to be on your team. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of people. If you wanna, did you do it that way? Like, was it that you had
We
so many?
we we had maybe, I'm forgetting now because it was like 12 years ago, right? But we had at least three or four team members because everyone's going to bring in a percentage of the income. So we were in our heads thinking like, I could probably bring in 15, my partner could bring in about 15, and our team members could bring in about 25 to 5, depending on their groups, right? So we really built out strategies. We built out social media strategies. We had email campaigns. We had them copying and pasting everything, like we were on it. It was like a full-time job
Yeah, it's
for
what I've
like the
heard.
30 days of the campaign. It's a lot of work. That's why
Mm-hmm.
after two, I was like, yeah, I can't do it again, but also we were trying to raise so much. Like even now I was like, I kind of need development money for my feature. I was like, I could probably do a crowdfunding campaign and raise 25 really easily, if I wanted to do that. So we're still toying with that idea. But crowdfunding, it is a full-time job and it's not a go it alone thing. I see so many filmmakers say, okay, if I have every friend on Facebook, just give me $5, then it'll be amazing. Not every person's going to give you money. Not everybody cares and everyone's going to read it. And that's okay. It doesn't say anything bad about them. It's just where we are. Our attention spans are 8 seconds now. And just because someone's your friend on Facebook doesn't mean they're going to give you money. And it's really about being diligent and asking and reaching out. I mean, one of our secret techniques was like at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I would go on Facebook. You could see what friends are online, and I'd go, hey, I'm $48 shy of my goal for the day. Can you help me out? I would never go, hey, can you give $20? No, hey, I'm $69 shy of my goal today. Can you help me out? Like giving people like specific numbers, and they'd go, yeah, and then they would do it. But it was like that direct ask, and I had to get comfortable with that direct ask because at that point in my life, I definitely was not. And that's where I think especially women. Um, Sometimes those crowdfunding or asking for money or talking to investors can be really hard because I think we all have like a money threshold. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And you have to understand what that threshold was. Like I could maybe ask somebody at that point in my life for $25 and feel okay. And if a friend asked me for 50, 75, sure, anything over 100, I'd probably start to have a panic attack. Do you know what I mean? Like at that point in my life, because my money threshold was so low, you know? But doing those campaigns helped raise that up to realize, wow, I'm projecting when I'm asking someone for money, I started projecting my own limiting beliefs on it. So there was a point on the first, was it the first? Yeah, no, maybe it was the second one. I forget now. We needed an extra like 10K. I think it was the second short. And I, at the time, I was in New York and I worked at the top of the Empire State Building. I was a sales manager for their audio tour that they would sell to tourists. So I trained people on how to pitch it and sell it. And I just worked weekends, and it was like a really great, job to have while I was acting and doing everything else. And this was before I had built, my businesses. And so I had a strong relationship with the guy who owned the audio tour company, and that was a passion project of his. It's just something he wanted to do and give people like history of New York. And so I created a pitch deck. I sent it to him because we were asking, I think that in the pitch deck, I asked for 10,000, and he got my email, sent a response back right away and said, yeah, let's jump on a call. Full blown panic attack. Full blown panic attack. I'm like, now I have to get on a call and talk to you about money. And I remember talking to my producing partner at the time, and he was like, he took out he opened up, what's his, Grant Cardone. Do you know Grant Cardone? His books. He's like a sales guy.
Mm.
He has like the 10x rule and all this stuff.
Oh,
He opened
okay.
up one of he's a very masculine, just do it kind of guy. Anyway, my producer partner opened up the book and read me this passage of like, the more you sit in that fear, the more the fear grows.
Mm.
He's like, call him right now. I was like,
So
God
true.
damn it.
True.
Right. So then I pick up the phone and I called, and we talked a little bit about the project. And then he went, so would $5,000 help? I went, yes, that's great. That's wonderful. 5,000. Yes. Great, great, great. We hung up the phone. And then I sat there and I went, oh, fuck. He chose to take the call for 10,000 because that's what the pitch deck said. And I settled for 5 because of my own fear. Do you know what I mean? Like even those little ways that we do things, I could have said, actually, I really need 10. Can you do anything closer to that? Now I could say that, then I couldn't. So I think it's so interesting, all these conversations about money, especially as women, and just getting more and more comfortable with that. Like now, my feature, we're kind of looking at a $2.5 million budget for my feature because I really want to get like 2 huge names attached to it. And like, so now we're talking about even bigger numbers. And I'm like, oh my God, like all the fear is back again. Cause like now I got to raise that threshold again. It's a lot. It's a lot. But we get to be comfortable because I would find myself just, again, projecting my own money beliefs. I remember people from high school were like, yeah, I'll help you out. What do you need? And I was like, oh, $40 is great. And then I had this one woman give me $250 that I went to high school with after I asked for 40. And I was like, wow, I'm really projecting my own
Mm-hmm.
beliefs on other people, and sometimes it's hard to recognize that because we don't want to ask for too much or feel like we're this or feel like we're that, like all those stories. But to get stuff made, we need money. Or you call in lots of favors, or you do both. You know what I mean?
Would you
And so all of that is asking.
that is ask would you still recommend like this crowdfunding, like if somebody now,
Oh,
is that something you
sure.
would say this is still working, this still really
It
brings in
is.
money? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I do believe it is. Yeah. I still see people having successful campaigns. I just think as long as you put in the work, I think a lot of people just think, I know a lot of people, I'll just put my campaign out and the money will flow in. And it just doesn't happen that way, right? You just need to have the strategy behind it. And like we've been talking about, directly asking people, and directly doing it and not relying just on social. Like even when I was putting together that crowdfunding course, like we realized, like I think it was like over 30%. No, maybe it was more than that. Maybe like 40 something percent of the money came from emails, direct emailing. It wasn't really from the social media, right? It's like the direct ask and the emails were where most of the money came from. Social media is marketing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, Ava's doing this thing. Oh, Valerie's doing this thing. Oh, that's fun. And now I see it 3 or 4 times. I'm like, what is it? Maybe I'll click on it. You know what I mean? It's more of a marketing thing, but people confuse social media thinking that it's sales. And it's not. Sales is the ask, right? Saying check out my campaign is not going to get someone to give you $200. It's
True.
not,
So
you know.
true.
Because they went, oh, I checked it out. Congratulations. You know what I mean? I did what you
What an
told me.
awesome
I
campaign
checked
you
it
have
out.
there.
Yeah. Amazing. Love it. Bye. Damn.
Right,
So
exactly.
the direct ask, like you directly, and did you then, you talked about now before that you had like specific numbers that you would say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
would do that in the email too. You would write, this is,
Well, that was more of a strategy for like late at night, people are online, they're going to probably read my message, and sometimes specific numbers. Because if you just say $20, that's what but if I found just having a specific amount made people go, oh, I can help her with that, as opposed to, oh, she's asking everyone for $25 or, you know, or that whole, give up your coffee for the week and give me $5 or something like that stuff never works. Do you know what I mean? So, but the emails were more just about, hey, here's the campaign, right? Here's the campaign. Here's what I'm trying to raise. I could really use your help with whatever you can give.
Okay,
Because I
okay.
didn't want to put a cap in an email because again, like when I asked my friend for 40 bucks or whatever and she gave 250, I was like, okay, I need to stop asking
Damn.
for small amounts. You
Mm.
know, like thank God she gave 250 and didn't just give 40.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God she didn't listen to my limiting beliefs, you know?
Mm. And then you talked about now you have private investors. And this is a very
Yeah.
interesting field too. Because,
Yeah.
well, here in Europe, we have the feeling it's not so existing. I do think it is. And I know there's some.
Hmm.
And you in the States are more known for it. That in the film
Got
industry,
it.
you have a lot of private investors. So how did you do that? Like, how did you get your, if you want to share?
Yeah. I mean, the very first investor that I got, that was basically through a referral through a friend, and he
Mm,
had invested in something she had done. So there was that. Um, and now I mean, I use LinkedIn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm,
I reach out to a lot of people on LinkedIn, film funds, investors. I've gotten 3 or 4 conversations already just with LinkedIn, reaching out to investors, just being saying, hey, and kind of what I do as an actor, right? I talk about the themes of the stories I tell. I'm
mm-hmm,
not giving them my log line. I'm not telling them all the stuff about my film. I'm literally saying, hey, I have a feature film I wrote about the time in your life when you parent your parents. I potentially already have first money in. I'm taking other meetings with investors. Can we hop on a call?
mm,
And that's been working. Either they're attracted to that theme and they go, oh, that's interesting, or
mm-hmm.
they're not, and actually I sent that. I reached out to this one person on LinkedIn. I'll keep their name private,
Of
but we
course.
ended up having a lovely Zoom meeting, and she is actually was in the middle of creating a philanthropic film fund. So meaning that because like mine is really about aging in America when you lose your parents, what does that mean? The healthcare system, all this stuff. And so her philanthropic film fund is connecting people with causes who have like extra money at the end of the year that they need to get
Mm.
rid of for taxes, like these really wealthy people, but they want to invest their money in something they believe in, right? They want to be a
Mm,
part of something. They're like, yes, I want to be involved in this film about cancer because my wife had cancer. Yes, I lost both my parents. I want to be involved in this project, right? And they want to dip their toes in the film industry, but want to do stuff that means something. And I got connected with her, and she's like, this is a great film for that. So I was like, wonderful. So we're still in talks about that. But again, it's asking, and just I realize the older I get and the more and more I'm in this industry, like nothing happens unless you ask. Unless you
mm,
ask,
Yeah.
ask for help. When you
you
say
know.
investors, how do you know? Like, sorry, I'm just like, I mean, we need to hear this. We need to know this.
Oh, they will
Like,
find them.
Yeah.
yeah, like why? Like, are you like what kind of investors are you reaching out to? How do you know that
Um,
they're investors? Like, what is it that
I
tells
mean,
you
on LinkedIn, it says
investor?
investor, like they're a film investor. There's film investment groups on LinkedIn that
Mm.
you can join and think,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of resources. I don't think, I mean, only the past, I would say 9 months to maybe 9 months, I've really been using LinkedIn, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
astounded by what I've been leaving out of the equation for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot that you can discover on LinkedIn. But again, it just goes back to the ask, right? I have a high school friend in LA, and we hadn't talked for a little bit, and then he thought of me for a voiceover job for something because he does a bunch of different things. So we reconnected, and I was like, oh yeah, I wrote a film, and he was like, oh, well, do you need investors? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I just got connected to this guy who sold his business, and now all he wants to do is invest in film. And I was like, okay. Do you know what I mean? But if I wouldn't have reconnected, if I wouldn't have asked, if I wouldn't have said anything, like it
Networking.
just comes back to like just fucking tell people what you're doing because you never
Mm,
know.
yeah.
Like
Mm.
you never know. And I know so many people, I think, well, the script isn't ready. I don't want to talk about it yet. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to
Mm.
this. I don't want to that. I'm like, Chubb, just talk about it. Just talk about it. You know, like we finished the latest draft of the script in December, and we got really good coverage, and then did another tweak, and now I'm going to get more coverage and do it again. So the script isn't locked, it's not ready, but I started reaching out to investors like 6 months ago because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, things take time. I might as well tell them that I'm here. Do you know what I mean? Might as well do this. I reached out on LinkedIn to this guy, part of a huge film fund, huge film investor, has probably invested, I think his website said like $1 billion in film over his whole career. He's like in his 70s, huge guy. Again, I'll keep the name private.
Mm-hmm.
I sent him a message on LinkedIn, basically what I had already said to you that I said. And he was like, yeah, send me the script. I was like, he's like, here's my email. So I sent him the script. He sent me back some notes. He said, it's a pass for me right now because of A, B, C, D, and E. He said, and if you want to jump on a call to talk it out, let me know. And I was like, ooh. I was talking to my accountability partner. I have an accountability partner that I talk to twice a week. And I was like, Laura, he said he would jump on a call with me. She was like, call him. And I'm like, no, but he gave me the notes. They're here. I don't want to waste his time. No, I don't want to. And she was like, Jodie, get on the goddamn phone.
Yes. Yes.
So I called him and he didn't answer. And then I was driving home and the phone call came through and I was like, it's him. And I had a panic attack and I didn't answer. And then I got home and I called him back. I mean, look, I think a lot of times we look at people who are like successful and we go, oh, they always have their shit together. No, we don't. We feel fear. We feel all the things. I'm like, I'll go cry in the bathroom and then come out and make the phone call. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just how you push through it all, right? So I got home, I took a breath, I got in my office where I felt comfortable. And then I made the phone call. We talked for like 45 minutes. It was incredible. He gave me some great feedback on the script. We ended up realizing, like, I have a sister who's cognitively disabled. His daughter, oh my God, I'm forgetting what she had. But anyway, she had something very similar. I'm a cancer survivor. His wife is a cancer survivor. Like, we just ended up having this beautiful conversation. And at the end of it, I said, well, when I make these changes, would you be amenable to reading the next draft? He was like, oh yeah, send it to me. And so like I have this huge guy who's had all this experience in the industry who's like now in my corner and like I'm like, why? Do you know what I mean? Like there's always this voice in the back of my head like, well, why do they want to help me? But I know that's just imposter syndrome. I know a lot of that is what happens to women. Like, it's all of that. So just being cognizant of that voice isn't truth and just keep moving forward, keep moving forward. And if he's not interested, he'll say no, or he won't answer my emails anymore.
You have nothing to
Do you know what I mean?
lose.
So,
You have
so
nothing
what?
to lose. You can only gain.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This freaking voice, will it
So,
ever
yeah.
go away?
I know. Yeah, I mean, I've learned how to turn the volume down on it. But like I said, like now I feel like I'm in a different arena. Now I'm talking to these huge investors who started huge film funds and for asking for all this money, and it's so I like now they're getting louder again because as we raise up in our careers, because I believe like our limiting beliefs are our limiting beliefs. I don't feel like they're going to go away, right? I always have this limiting belief if I'm not enough. It's there. It's going to be there. It's how my childhood, everything about it's just there. It's ingrained in my DNA, but I know how to turn the volume down on it. Right. But then when I get into a new circle, sometimes it goes, uh-oh, it turns up a little bit. And I have to consciously and intentionally be like, nope, I know that story. It's not the story anymore, But I think our bullshit's always our bullshit. It's just how we learn how to manage it.
That's so true. It's like, yeah, I can take you for a ride, but you're not taking the front seat. You can sit somewhere there. Like,
yes,
and
Elizabeth
for half of the
Gilbert.
ride, I don't want to listen to you, so I switch on the music so we can just enjoy the ride, but not listening to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. How do you do that? How do you turn it down?
I mean, I've been working on myself for many, many, many years. But I do think it just starts with I mean, everything starts with an awareness, right? Like it took me a long time to even recognize like, okay, that's the thing. I know this is the thing. I know why it's there. And I know that that's a story I chose to view from my parents, right? And knowing that that's not my story, but it's a part of me, but it's not my story. So now when it comes up in situations, I go, oh, it's that thing again. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then some days I can turn it down real easy, and other days it starts to escalate. And I go, okay, I need to take a step back from this computer. I need to call a friend. I need to go cry to my husband. I just need to go for a walk to reset, to be able to have that skill to turn it down again, But I think it just starts with an awareness of all the bullshit that's in our way, all the excuses that we make. Like you can just, even if you just start tracking all the excuses you make in a day, even like the tiny things that you think don't mean anything. Oh, I don't have time to do that right now. Do you really not have time? Do you really not have time? Or is it that that's not a priority? Why is that not a priority? Oh, because that's the scariest thing that you could do right now, which is actually triggering your nervous system because you don't believe that you deserve to do that, have that thing. So you're going to make that say, I have no time for that thing, but you have time to go scroll on Instagram for 20 minutes. Got it. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Damn.
I know. But yeah, it
this
is.
conversation.
And look, don't get me wrong, time is my favorite excuse. I love using time as an excuse. But then I have to go, okay, but if I don't have time, where am I spending my time? What needs to be prioritized? And why am I saying I don't have time to do that if that's what I really want?
Yeah.
Right? What am I letting take over? And does that matter as much? So I mean, how do you do that? I think it's just being really conscious of all of your actions and just being aware of it. And it's hard in our world that moves so fast, right? I mean, there's information coming at us all the time, like wherever, I mean, the other day I was like, I have 35 unread texts right now. I have 42 emails I need to answer. And that's only my personal email. Thank God I have assistants answering my other stuff, but I have all these things from clients I have to answer, things from this. I just sat there. I was like, this is a lot. Like sometimes we're bombarded with stuff that it's just even hard to stay on top of that. So sometimes we just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just do it. And we're not really paying attention to what the mind is doing or what we're feeling or, the excuses that are coming up around that. And then before you know it, we're neglecting our health. We're not working out. We're not eating well. I'm not focusing on my acting career like I want to be doing because I got sucked down into all this other stuff. So I think it's just so important to stay intentional and conscious for what means the most to you and what's the voice and the stories coming up. And we got to understand that we are pre-programmed for lack. We're just going to see lack. And we need to know that. Like, I don't know any of my friends or any of my clients who go, oh yeah, I created this story the other day of how fabulous I was and that I booked everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one creates that. We create the story of like, my agent hates me. No one calls me in anymore. I'm never going to book anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were pre-programmed for lack, and we just have to know that. And when those feelings come up, we just got to be like, oh, just stop it. Just stop. Yeah.
We should start a club like where we're like, oh my God, I am so amazing. Like today I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, oh, who is this goddess? Like, is this even me?
And someone should call someone, a specialist.
I love it. I have an acting accountability partner. We talk once a month, and that's more like, these are the goals I'm doing for the month and this, that. And at the end of our call together, I go, what do you need from me this month? And she goes, what do you need from me this month? And so last month I said, just keep telling me. I think just text me every once in a while and just tell me I'm a really great actor. So every once in a while, Amy's like, you're a kick-ass actor. You're a fucking badass actor. And I'm like, yeah. Because like, we need that. Like, we need that,
Yeah.
It's so easy to forget. It's just so easy to forget as we're just going.
Oh, I love
And it's
that.
interesting, we really pre-programmed to believe something like limiting beliefs. For example, if someone says like 5 people tell you you're amazing, you're like best performance or in life, just amazing, best thing ever. And there is one who would just give you a little bit of a critique or something, you would 100% concentrate on that critique and then completely disregard all these good amazing things that people are saying. We're like, yeah, I knew there was like something there and they just don't want to tell me. Why is that?
Totally.
Crazy.
Because we want to prove ourselves right. We want to be right innately. Whether we say it or not, we want to be right. So if I believe I'm not enough, I'm going to search out a validation that I am not enough, because then I can go, I knew it. I'm right. Because that means more than actually moving past it in our brains.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's why we have to be super intentional to go, no, I'm not looking to prove myself right. I'm looking to break out of this thing that's limiting me, But it's hard, especially like, sometimes my husband will say these like really nice things to me. And then and think it's my partner. I see him every day. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah. Like, you kind of have to say that. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, oh my God, Retta said this about me. He was like, I just said that to you 2 days ago. And I don't get credit for it, you know? And it's like, oh, because our brains filter things in such a weird way sometimes. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
It is. It really is. Oh God. You know what? I think what I would love just, we're like coming to the end of this, which I kind of don't want to say here. I'm like, can we
Let's
just
just stay here.
Can we just stay here?
I love it.
Stay
Yes.
here.
Let's keep talking.
What I think was beautiful is that we go back to I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like
Yes.
to tell us about your films and
Yeah.
where you are at? What do you
Yeah.
need? Like, we'd love to hear. And
Yeah. So that I was just kind of emotional. So in 2018, I lost my dad,
sorry.
and oh, thank you. Um, and and I knew after he passed, I said, I want to write. I need to write something,
Mm.
and I didn't know what it was. But I think in 2019, I bought Final Draft. I didn't open it until 2023.
Oh my God, okay.
And then
It's amazing.
and then in 2023, it was like outdated. I had to buy it again or
It's the
upgrade or
fruit that
whatever. Do you know what I
counts,
mean?
you know.
Right. I was like, I'm gonna buy this thing. But yeah, so it's in 2018, my dad passed. In 2021, my mom passed,
Oh my
and
God, I'm so sorry.
my dad died at 70, and my mom died at 71.
I'm so
So they died
sorry.
really young. Thank you.
Oh.
Um, and but I knew there was like I just felt compelled that there was a story in there,
Mhm.
right? So at one point I approached a friend of mine who's a writer, and we talked about writing a series about my mom, and she was still alive actually. 'Cause my mom ended up getting diagnosed with Lewy body dementia,
Hmm.
which is actually what Robin Williams was diagnosed with. So it's a form of dementia where it's a lot of hallucinations, and it can be very paranoid. It can get violent, and it's very cyclical. So it'll go into a phase of like all this awful stuff, and then she feels perfectly fine, and then it'll go back. So it's a very cyclical dementia, which is very challenging. So my mom had that. So there's a point because like she would just say some crazy things, and I started documenting all this stuff she would say to me, and I'm like, oh, this is a film one day, this is something. But anyway, I started talking to a friend about writing something, and then that kind of fell apart because she was writing another project. And but I kept sitting and like, there's a story here, there's a story here, and it kept coming back to me about the time in your life when you parent your parents, because when in 2018 my dad called me crying and said, your mom fell, I don't think she's going to make it. I flew out back home to Massachusetts. I see my father. He's like half the man he was, and like pale and gaunt. My mom's in the hospital hallucinating. My dad doesn't look well. 2 weeks later, my dad dies.
Hmm.
He was gotten to the final stages of leukemia. Didn't tell me it had progressed as far as it did. And then he was in the hospital. He fell, hit his head, and then he ended up dying. And then I was left with my mom who had dementia, who was in the hospital. I had to sell my childhood home all by myself. Like it was this whole thing. And, there's just a point in our lives where we're all going to have to take care of our folks. That's just what's going to happen. So anyway, that's kind of that. It's about my story.
Mm.
It's written from a very obviously universal and relatable place. So I forgot when it was. Maybe it was probably like 2021. Another person I knew, we actually taught in 2019. We taught together at the last university job I had. He was a dance teacher, and I was the business of acting teacher. And I saw on Facebook that he lost his father probably like a year after mine. And so we just kind of stayed in touch. And then a couple of years passed, and then I saw him write a post about his dad. And I went, and James is a writer. And I reached out. I was like, you want to talk about writing something together? I think I was too afraid to write on my own because I never wrote.
Hmm.
And he had written a bunch of stuff. And he was like, yeah, let's take a meeting. So we got on a Zoom meeting, and he's like, what do you want to write about? And I said, well, and I told him the whole story of my family and everything. And I probably like spewed at him for like 45 minutes. And at the end of it, he just looked at me. He's like, well, we don't need to embellish anything. And I was like, no, we don't. And then we started writing a script together, and we started writing it as a pilot in 2023.
Mm.
And I said, James, I said, I just need to get the first pass. I just need to get the truth out. Just let me get the truth out. It might not be, the best dramatic arc. It might not be the best anything. I said, I just need to write the truth cathartically to get that out. And that's how we started. And that was such a part of my healing. It was such a part of it felt like therapy to like write this and then have James bear witness to it and understand the psychology of my parents and just all this. It was just really a beautiful experience. And then it was tweaking, and then we had a lot of people read it and we got some good feedback, but everyone kept saying, make the world bigger, make the world bigger, make the world bigger, because it's TV, right? And television now, we want it to go on for like 30 episodes or whatever. And so we kept expanding the world and we added in like my aunt and uncle and my cousins and this and that. And then I took a step back, kind of like what we're talking about. And I said, no, this isn't the story. The
Mm.
story I want to tell is a very intimate story of a dysfunctional family
Mm.
at the end of their lives. That's cinematic then. So then we switched to a film. So all last year we took the pilot and changed it into a film. So we met once a week all of last year pretty much and rewrote it. And it's in a really good place now. Um, yeah, so it's very personal. It's deeply personal to me. As I mentioned, my sister's cognitively disabled, so she's a big part of the script. So it really, and then what we ended up doing is adding in a lot of James's story with his own father. James is gay, and his father didn't really accept him as that. So we have a whole storyline of LGBTQ. We have my sister. We have the dementia, leukemia. That just like so there's so
Mm.
much in it that I think people can really relate to it, and it just feels so good to use my pain and trauma and create art, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so now we're at the point of, getting it out in the world and doing it. So I've been talking to a production company already, looking at where to shoot it. I really wanted to shoot it in my hometown. But then, you put on your business hat and go, well, Massachusetts is a 25% tax credit and New York State has a 40% tax credit.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so we're in that kind of place now. We're about to hire a line producer and do the whole budget, and the schedule. And yeah, I mean, our goal will probably be shooting it in the spring of 2026
Mm.
because I don't think it'll happen this year. So that's sort of the goal. But yeah, it's a very personal journey, and I never thought I'd write. I never thought I'd write about that. But it felt right. Everything clicked, and like writing with James was so creative and freeing, and it just like our sessions just flowed, and when you get in the zone and you get in the flow
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels right, and this whole project has just felt right. And of course now we're at the place of like now we really need to take the meetings, and so like I haven't done anything on it this past month, but also there's a lot of other irons in the fire, and we we had fires in Los Angeles, we had all this
Yeah.
stuff that kind of slowed the industry down, right? But now it's time to pick up the ball there a little bit, but that's kind of the focus and where we're at. But really want to get name actors to play my parents, have like a wish list together for that, and
Mhm.
need to get a casting director on board, and so we got to start doing the whole thing.
Wow, that is so. And you
Yeah.
were looking for investors, right?
Yes. Yes, we are actively looking for investors now.
Okay. And if somebody wants to invest, which I hope and I know they will, like the way you are, it's just that it's like, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank
The
you.
way you
Thank
draw one
you.
in, and it's like the story. I want to see it. I want to see this story. I
Thank
want to
you.
see this film. Where
Thank
is
you.
it best? So, because you have so many different,
I
like as
know.
the actor,
No,
as the
It's too
narrator,
much.
the branding, career coach, the
I know.
producer. Like, where is it best to connect with you? And like, if I want to
Yeah.
invest in your film, where's the best? If I want to work with
Got
you
it.
as the coach, like, tell us.
Got it. Two places. You can get to all of them through my main website, which is jodiebentley.com.
Okay.
You can reach out to me there. I have links to all my coaching stuff there. And if you're an artist and you're interested in coaching or looking at my programs, or I have a lot of free resources, obviously, you can go to
Mm-hmm.
actor-insider.com. So those are the two best places to go, and you can contact me through both those places.
Okay, so also for
perfect.
investing, and that's where you.
Yeah, jodiebentley.com is that's all my producing stuff is on there. That's all on there. Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow,
Yeah.
this is Beautiful. I just want to ask one question because I know you do
Yeah.
branding and career coaching like for actors, but it feels like this is something for anyone in the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
If you are starting out as a director
Sure.
or a producer, or because we all need to put ourselves out there. We need to go like,
Yeah.
"Hi, I exist."
Right. Right. Well, that's why I mentioned my client Jessica, who ended
Mhm.
up writing Cat for me. She took one of my programs. So my program Dare to Be Unstoppable is more for artists in general. I have a lot of directors, writers, producers, actors in that course because that's a more of a mindset, goal, strategy course. And then the Actors
Okay.
Think Tank is really building the brand and all the marketing tools and the networking and the sales, everything for actors specifically. So yeah, so Dare to Be Unstoppable is where I have a lot of other creatives will join that program.
Everyone needs that. I mean, of course, creative people, but it's just about taking the space, right? To tell the world
Yes.
that I'm here. Look at me. I know my
Oh, of
worth.
course.
Awesome.
Yes. Yes. There's a meditation I love that's called Take Up Space that I do. It's so important, and again, not to keep harping on especially women, but I do think it's true because, it's part of our journey is that we've had to be smaller in some
Yeah.
Mm,
capacity, so to take up space, take up as much space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have those conversations a lot, 'cause especially with my software company,
mm,
like the software world and the tech world, women aren't really in that
Mm-hmm.
world. There's some,
yes.
but it's very male dominated and it's very interesting. And like you said, like a 30-year-old white man will go, yeah, I need $2 million for this app. And they go, okay. And they get $2 million. I go, yeah, it didn't work out. You know what I mean? And
Big
I'm like,
deal.
can I have right, can I have $50,000 for this one feature that I know is going to work? Do you know what I mean? And I've done the research and I figured out the calculations. And this is exactly what I need. It's like, oh my God, just ask for the money. Do you know what I mean? So it goes back to asking and taking up space.
Mm,
Yeah.
Wow.
no, so
Wow.
true.
Jodie, thank you so much.
Oh,
This
It was
thank you,
such a
Ava. Thank you,
pleasure. Thank you
Valeria.
so much.
it's been
So great to chat about all of this. It's so important. I really appreciate what you both are doing, and bringing these conversations to the world is so powerful because we
mm,
learn through other people and it helps us all
yeah,
expand. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
And it's important to see like these amazing kick-ass women like you. Like you are such a role
Thank
model.
you.
And that's the thing.
Thank you.
And still you're struggling and you're not picking up the phone. Even if you're like,
I know.
this dude could invest in my film and I'm panicking here. Or you know what I mean? And I think
I
that's
just need a minute. Just give me a minute.
can you not call now? No.
Oh,
I can't.
it's
And I
so
think
human.
yeah, and I think
Right?
it's so important that we talk about that too. Like because
Yes,
Jodie, when we
exactly.
see you, it looks from the outside, to be
Exactly.
honest, perfect.
Yes.
You're gorgeous. You're really, really intelligent. You're so structured.
Thank you.
You're like your brain is just on another frequency. You're like
Mm.
so fast. It's like
So fast. I know.
still you're in the bathroom crying.
Hmm.
Still, you question yourself. Still, you do not
Yeah.
have it all figured out all the time.
No.
Yeah. And that's the beauty. And
No.
thank you for being so honest because with
Of
social media,
course.
we have all these perfect images and we just get lost in then this comparing game.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we don't start. Or we're like, I'm
Exactly.
just, I can't be her. We don't want you to be her. Like, don't be you.
Right.
Be
Don't
you.
be you.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But it's all of our, the even the fear or the doubt or all of that. It's a part of who we are, and there was a point, even because I feel like I've struggled a lot in my life. I've been mentioned, like we had cancer, I've gone through divorce, I've lost my parents. Like there's a lot of things. I'm my sister's guardian now. Like there's a lot of things. Um and so I have stuff. Um oh my God, now I just lost my train of thought. It went completely away. We're talking about the struggle.
Not being perfect.
See, I forget things. My brain stopped.
it.
See, the frequency went away.
This was for you, our beautiful listeners. And if you're watching this was for you.
Yes.
You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together. It's just taking the steps, you know?
It is
Keep
taking
in
the
the
steps.
light.
But I just think it's just, being real with it all. Like, yes, there's a perception and we put it out in the world. And, I'm not every day I'm like, my life is a struggle, because it's not every day. But we get to, oh, that's what it was. I said to my husband, I said, because we look around, we compare and despair, right? I do the same thing. And I go, oh God, I can't imagine if I grew up in that household. But like if those people were my parents and I grew up in $1 million home or $3 million home in Malibu, what would my life be like then? What would that be? And I was like, just like, thinking about that, like a little victim pity party of myself, of like how I feel like I have to work so hard. And my husband turned to me and he went, babe, but you wouldn't be you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, you're right. And you know what? I know, I love you. And I like who I am. So yeah, why would I change that? Like all the stuff that's happened to me, all the stuff that happened to you both or anybody listening, like that's made you who you are. And no one is like you. So I'm not gonna, yeah, sure. Would I have liked some different experiences in my life? Yeah. But it's made me who I am. And I like who I am. So I'm gonna own that and honor that and not let that define me, like the pain or the trauma define me, but move through that into who I've become,
We like who you are.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This has been just gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
You give me
Thank
a
you for
lot
having
of
me.
energy, to be honest. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I feel amazing. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. It's
Good, I
interesting
love it.
because I cannot imagine how it would feel if we were all like being in one place. Because of course it's it's like I'm smiling in my 32 teeth watching you both on screen. But imagine the energy in the room. It's insane.
Girls,
Yes.
So much light about you.
I know.
Really admire it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. It
thank
was
you.
beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Very, very much
Appreciate
looking
that.
forward to seeing I'm Okay.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
much
Me
looking
too.
forward.
Me too.
That
Thank you.
is definitely going to be out there, and it's much needed for so many of us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.